Hi everyone, welcome back to Video Game Ducks, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be titling this little series a Look into the Collection, which is where I will be showcasing certain games, certain items that I have in my collection that I just think are really cool and want to show off the physical versions of the games or whatever it is really. And so to celebrate The Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary, which is my favorite series of all time, we're going to start with Zelda. And so we're going to be going through the first Legend of Zelda game, and then moving on to The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Then of course, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. And then on to my personal favorite, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the N64. Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, a fan favorite for a lot of people. Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker, a game that a lot of people didn't expect the best out of, but turned out really good. Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, both GameCube and Wii versions we'll be checking out for that video, since there are a few differences. Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, one game that I think gets a little bit too much hate here in the community, but you know. And then finally, of course, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Hopefully by the time that we get around to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, we get a sneak preview or something for The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild 2. Further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about The Legend of Zelda, the first game in the series. So I've talked a little bit too much, so let's just get right into it. Alright, so starting off with The Legend of Zelda, the first Zelda game actually released on the Famicom Disk System. This is what this little guy looks like. It's a little floppy disk looking thing. It's actually proprietary to Nintendo. What is it? Oh, disc cards. They're originally called disc cards. Now, I recently got this one into my collection not too long ago for picking up the Famicom Disk System, just for this video actually. And then here we have The Legend of Zelda 1 on the original Famicom cartridge itself. Now, this was released after the Disk System version of the game. It released quite a few years later, and I was able to pick that up in Japan when I visited for the first time, and that's also when I got the Famicom itself. So here in the US, we eventually just got The Legend of Zelda, with the box art having a fairly standard logo on it. There's a key, a heart, a lion looking thing. And the box also advertises that it includes invaluable maps and strategic playing tips. They really gave you one there, which was really nice of them. And there's also a little window into the cartridge itself. You can see that it's golden tint right there. Now, The Legend of Zelda was originally developed by Nintendo R&D 4, which at the time was the largest development group at Nintendo. They're actually now known as Nintendo EAD, or Entertainment Analysis and Development. The Zelda series itself is now led by producer Eiji Aonuma, but this first Zelda game was designed by the man himself. Shigeru Miyamoto actually designed this game along with Mario Bros. And Donkey Kong, and with the help of Takashi Tezuka, of course. He was art director on the game, and he would go on to do a lot of things regarding Zelda, but we'll get into that in a future video. And Toshihiko Nagako was the main programmer for the game, and of course Koji Kondo was the sound composer for the game, and he would go on to do sound composing for each Zelda game after this, up until Breath of the Wild actually. So flipping over the box, we actually have a fairly nice back with The Legend of Zelda stated, and it says, "Experience the challenge of endless adventure." Now right here you have two screenshots. You have the overworld with Link fighting some Octoroks there, and it says, "Explore the vast overworld terrain of the land," or the looks like level 5 of the game, one of the dungeons, which says, "Explore the mystical labyrinths of the underworld and ward off ruthless enemies." So along with that, we have a little paragraph here detailing what's going on with the game. So it says, "Welcome to The Legend of Zelda, where the only sound you'll hear is your own heart pounding as you race through forests, lakes, mountains, and dungeons, mazes in an attempt to restore peace to the land of Hyrule. Along the way, you'll be challenged by Tektites, Wizrobes, and an endless array of ruthless creatures who will stop at nothing to prevent you from finding the lost fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom. But don't despair, with a little luck and a lot of courage, you'll conquer your adversaries, unite the Triforce fragments, and unravel the mystery of The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda is the most challenging video game we've ever created. To help you keep up with the action, Zelda comes action-packed with, and here we go, this is where it gets good, maps of Hyrule. Use them to find your way through the overworld, leading you to the lost fragments of the Triforce and extended playing power. Zelda is programmed to remember everything you find on your journey, so you never have to start your search empty-handed. So what that means is actually the fact that this game has save functionality. So once we get the cartridge out, we'll actually be able to see that it says on the back that it contains a battery. Now, with the original game like this, when it came on the disk system, because it's a floppy disk, it was rewritable. And so they didn't need to add a battery or anything. You could just rewrite directly onto the cartridge what was going on. And then for the US European release and the later cartridge release in Japan, they added the battery just so you could save. So if we go ahead and open the box here, I'm trying to be a little careful with it. It likes to get stuck right there. Notice that mine only has one tab. It came like that, so I don't know what happened with it. And here we are. We have the classic Nintendo NES shield. We have the beautiful golden cartridge that would become a staple for Zelda in years to come. With The Legend of Zelda, experience the challenge of endless adventure. And of course, we have the key, 2 hearts this time, and the lion. Here in the back, we can see the caution. It says the game pack contains batteries. It may be damaged if game pack is removed or inserted with the power on, or the power switch is turned rapidly on and off. So if you actually shake this cartridge too much, or you turn the console off wrong, it can actually delete your save file. It happened to me a few times where I actually rattled it a little too much and I lost everything that was going on with the game. So then let's take a look at the manual. Now the manual, or the instruction booklet as it says here, this is some of my favorite stuff when it comes to retro video games. You don't get this often anymore. And with stuff like The Legend of Zelda, you actually get a very interesting look into what was originally there. So right here, this is actually a full map of Hyrule. It may look hyper realistic because it is, but it's actually a full map. And right here, as it says, a long time ago, the world was in an age of chaos. And this actually details what the story is so far. So if we go on, we can see some more beautiful concept art. That's obviously one of the most famous pictures of Zelda. That's Link buying from a salesman, and of course, Link helping Impa. Yes, Impa was in this game and actually talked about here in the instruction booklet. A lot of people associate Impa with Link to the Past or later games because she helps Zelda, but she was here in the first game, and a lot of people, some people missed it simply because you know, you don't have the instruction book to stuff like this. So if we move on, we get more really beautiful artwork with some more really fun facts like riddles and hidden underground ways to go. There's Link going through a little bit of a secret tunnel. Then we move on, and this is where it starts to give you kind of the tutorial, how to create your character. Press the start button, register your name, continue playing. Right here, this is actually really cute. You have Nintendo, Mario, and Luigi as the first few characters. So player name, number of games played, and life power level. And then here you go, we get the basic wisdom to help you start your journey. So you move Link by the D-pad, you attack with your sword, and you use any sort of gadget that you want, main and subscreen, and then press the restart buttons. So this is the main screen, this is the subscreen, it details that out nice. Then it details the overworld and the underworld being the dungeons, the overworld being the rest of everything. Here are the enemies. This is what I always thought was really cool. So you got the Tektite. Do you imagine them looking like that? Or the Octoroks, look at that. They're nasty. The levers look alright. The Peahats kind of just look like flowers to me. The Moblins look absolutely disgusting, and so do the Armos, which they kind of just look like weird soldiers in their pixel art, but they're supposed to be like skeletons. And obviously you have the Genie, which are just regular ghosts, and of course the classic Lionel, which made its return in Breath of the Wild. But that's not all. You also have the Zola, which are, again, Zora, half fish, half woman, actually, who lives in the water. So maybe they're actually Zora, maybe they're not, who knows? And then, of course, the worst enemy in the game, the Rock. Finally, these are the enemies that you can find in the underground, the Zol and the Gel. The Soul is the big brother, and then the smaller ones are Gels. You got the Rope, which is just a snake, the Vire and the Keese. Vire like to jump a little bit, Keese just kind of fly around randomly. Stalfos, which we'll see in later games as skeleton enemies. The Wall Monster, which we'll also see in later games. The Goria, which I think only appears in this one. The Rizrobe, we will see in a lot of other games. Same with the Dark Nut. Pole's voice is actually interesting. So we see that right here, a ghost with big ears and a weak point. He hates loud noises. So in the American version, that's just it. You play the flute for him and that's it. But in the Famicom version, the player 2 actually has a microphone. So you can say something or scream into the microphone and la-di-da, he will die immediately. And then you have the Lanmola, which is a gigantic centipede. Now the game actually tells you about the Legend of Zelda ABCs, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a strategy guide on how to go and beat the first level to get you started off in the adventure. And of course, here's a map, and it tells you how to get to level 2. And with that, we have the compliance with FCC regulations, and that's the end of the instruction booklet. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough of the original Legend of Zelda game, showcasing the Famicom Disk System version, the original NES version that released in America, and of course the Japanese Famicom version. Cartridge, that is. So if you enjoyed this, look out next month for, we'll be going over Zelda 2, and make sure to leave a like on this video. Have a good one.